All right, you guys, little man is down for his nap. Let's get right into it before he wakes up. By the way, I'm talking to you guys in my living room and all the windows are open. So if you hear wind blowing, I have a nice breeze blowing through. Of course, if you hear swishing sounds, it's his noise machine on the monitor. And if you hear a random firework, some people are like shooting firecrackers outside of our house. I don't know why. It's a Tuesday afternoon. Who knows? But maybe some people are still celebrating 4th of July. That's great. It's kind of funny I'm filming this right now for you guys because it was only yesterday when I got home from work that I threw away all of my frozen breast milk, and there was so much. All of my breast milk went bad in the freezer because come to find out I have high lipase. So I had been suspecting this for a while and it confirmed it yesterday while I was at work. Josh thawed out breast milk for Quinn and he would not take a bottle. He would not drink the breast milk. And so Josh decided he was gonna like smell and taste all of it. And he said all of it was horrible. All of it smelled like soapy. It's like a weird smell, like very intrusive smell. And then he tasted it and it was all sour. And I guess sour is not the right word, but it's a very like metallic, terrible taste. Baby hates it. I would hate to drink it too. Like I said, I've been suspecting this for a while because Quinn hates the bottle. And there's been a couple times when I've smelled and tasted my frozen breast milk and I didn't really think anything of it because I was like, well, maybe it's supposed to be that way. And now that he's getting older, he's 4.5 months, my breast milk is changing and becoming fattier and higher calorie to meet his needs. And I think my lipase is just skyrocketing. So for those of you who don't know, there is a small percentage of women, come to find out I'm one of them, that have higher lipase in their breast milk than the average. And what lipase is an enzyme responsible for breaking down fat in the breast milk. And some women, small percentage of women, just have higher lipase enzyme levels than others. And that lipase enzyme, if you have too much of it, will cause your breast milk to smell really bad and taste really bad after it's been frozen and thawed out. It's really hard seeing all of my hard work, time, tears just go down the drain, but I'm okay with it actually. I'm at peace with it because my body has been keeping up quite nicely with Quinn's demands. And so let's get into the video. Sorry for like the long intro, but I really want to share with you guys my breastfeeding journey, a little story time. I want to start from the very beginning, from the moment Quinn was born to the tongue tie release he had to 3 months postpartum going back to work and pumping and what that's looked like all the way up until now. Like I said, Quinn is 4.5 months and it has been a journey. Let me tell you guys, breastfeeding is so hard. And I think that it's easier for some people and harder for some people, but it has been very hard for me. It has been the hardest part of postpartum for me. If I wasn't breastfeeding, postpartum honestly would probably be a breeze because all of my worries, all of my anxieties, my mental health has stemmed from breastfeeding. And so my goodness, you guys, I think it's worth it, but breastfeeding is really hard for me, and getting my milk production up and worrying that he's getting enough and the pain, it's just a lot. I've said this before, especially on Instagram. Unfortunately, our modern society is not set up for breastfeeding. And if you're a female in a job that's a high stress job like mine, like a nurse, being female in the workplace, most workplaces aren't set up for pumping and taking time out of your day to pump every 2 to 3 hours. And it's just a lot. And so I am going to share my whole breastfeeding journey right now with you guys. And then next week, I'm going to give you all of the tips that I've learned to help breastfeeding be a little bit easier, and some like tips also that I've learned to help increase milk supply. So next week's going to be all the tips to hopefully help your breastfeeding journey. And right now is going to be my story. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my little storytelling of what my breastfeeding journey has looked like. Okay, let's back way the heck up. So I had Quinn 3 weeks early on February 28th, 2023. I had him at 10:12 in the morning, and I was induced the day before at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning. And I was induced because I had preeclampsia, unfortunately. So I was in the hospital for a solid 5 days with preeclampsia before I was induced on Monday. I had been admitted to the hospital the previous Wednesday evening with preeclampsia and was monitored every single day with lots of lab draws and blood pressure checks and putting baby on the monitor, and it was just tons of fun, you know? And then then lo and behold, that weekend they said, okay, we need to get baby out because we're concerned about your health. And then if your health deteriorates further, then baby's health will too. You're turning 37 weeks on Monday, which was the 27th of February, and we're gonna induce you then. So I was induced with oral cytotec for 12 hours, and then they started Pitocin Monday night, and over 12 hours later of Pitocin, I had Quinn. So it was quite a traumatic labor, but it was a vaginal delivery. I avoided the C-section, thank goodness, because that was my worst fear. If you want to hear my birth story, I will link it down below. It was quite something. I didn't anticipate any of that. Even though I was hospitalized for a total of a week by the time I got discharged, I got really good care and I got really experienced nurses. That morning, I had a new nurse come on shift at 7, and she was a super experienced labor and delivery nurse. She helped deliver Quinn, and actually she was doing her assessment on him and noticed during her assessment that he has a tongue tie. And then I was moved to like the mother baby postpartum room upstairs in the hospital, and I had another really experienced nurse who also confirmed he has a tongue tie. And so she's the one who ordered a lactation nurse to see me before discharge. So I had a lactation nurse thoroughly assess him and assess his tongue, assess his latch on me before we got discharged, and she also confirmed he has a big tongue tie. And at the time I was like, what the heck is a tongue tie? So that lactation nurse in the hospital explained a little bit about what it was to me. Luckily, a few weeks before I had Quinn, I had already reached out to like an independent lactation group that's covered by my insurance, and I had already had like my initial consult with the nurse. So I was already in their system. They just told me, okay, text us when you have Quinn and when you get home, because we'll come to your house 2 days after discharge and make sure that he's latching okay. We'll assess him, make sure everything looks good. So that's what happened. 2 days after I got home with Quinn, a lactation nurse came to my house and she thoroughly assessed him. Oh, look at that. We are waking up already. Okay, hang on. All right, well, he's not about to go back to sleep, so he's gonna join us. So as I was saying, I had a lactation nurse come to my house 2 days after we got home, and she thoroughly assessed Quinn and noticed right away she called it a really big tongue tie, and if you don't get it fixed soon, it's gonna cause you a lot of problems down the road. Even though he was latching okay and his suck was really strong, as a new breastfeeding person, my milk was coming in already, and it was coming in strong because my body didn't know how to regulate it yet, and so he didn't have to work very hard initially. So the tongue tie was okay at first, but I did notice that probably every minute to a minute and a half he'd pop off, and he didn't mean to pop off. His mouth would just pop off because his tongue and his mouth was so tight from the tongue ties. He not only had the tongue tie, which is that piece of skin underneath the tongue, he had a big one. He had one underneath the lip, and then he had the buccal tongue ties, which are located right here and right here underneath the upper lip, which I didn't know at the time, but his mouth was super tight. And so nursing him would take so long. When you nurse a newborn, it's every 2 hours, and it would take anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour each nursing session. And by that time, I only had an hour break and I had to do it again. So I felt like he was attached to me at all times. And even though newborn feedings, they are gonna last longer because newborns aren't that efficient suckers yet, his was so long. It was so frustrating because it kept popping off, and he would get frustrated, and then he would just fall asleep on my boob all the time because he was tired of working so hard. He wouldn't get enough. This lactation nurse highly recommended that we do the tongue tie release, which is the procedure to fix the tongue tie, and we got it done through a pediatric dentist. So 2 weeks after he was born, we got the tongue tie released. So come to find out, he not only had the tongue tie underneath the tongue, which is what we caught right away, he had one underneath the lip, like I said, and then 2 on each side. So the pediatric dentist was the one who caught all of those, and she released all of them. The procedure was really fast. It took less than 5 minutes, and it was a laser procedure. So they just took a laser and just kind of zapped each of the ties. Apparently they gave him sugar water to keep him calm, and I didn't hear any crying. I was there with him, but I didn't watch it. I was kind of in another room next door while they did the procedure, and it was really fast. He did great, he tolerated it great. After the procedure was done, which like I said, took less than 5 minutes, they had me feed him right afterwards just to make sure he latched okay and that there wasn't any problems, and they were curious to see if I noticed a difference. Talk about game changer. Oh my gosh, you guys, huge difference. They did the procedure, I nursed him right afterwards, and he did not pop off once. I fed him for a solid 20 minutes and he stayed latched the entire time. I was so amazed. I was crying. Right after I had fed him, he was done after 20 minutes, and normally takes an hour. I was bawling. I was crying to the dentist saying like thank you. And of course I'm an emotional wreck because I'm like 2 weeks postpartum. I'm sleep deprived. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm a nervous wreck. And I was so thankful that she was able to do what she did because he nursed so well. It was not painful either, because up until then I had been struggling with a lot of nipple pain, which is common anyways, even if your baby doesn't have a tongue tie. But like it was really, really painful, and he kept popping off, but he stayed latched the whole time. He didn't fall asleep. I was like, oh my, and I was done after 20 minutes, and I was like, whoa, maybe I really can do this breastfeeding thing. I'm telling you guys, no way I would have been able to breastfeed him if that procedure wasn't done. No way. That was the turning point in my breastfeeding journey, and I'm glad I got it done when I did early so that I could just keep breastfeeding him and keep on my successful journey of breastfeeding. Successful, but it's had a lot of ups and downs. Just emotionally, it's been really hard for me to breastfeed, and so I'm so proud of myself. I've made it 4.5 months exclusively breastfeeding and pumping, and I'm very proud of myself. When a baby gets their tongue tie released, they have to do exercises 6 to 7 times a day to make sure the tongue tie doesn't grow back. And exercises meaning actually they're stretches. So before every feed, actually I would do it after every feed because before he'd be too fussy. And what I would do is they told me to just take my finger and put his tongue to the roof of his mouth so that it would stretch out that area that they released. So stretching it out would prevent it from growing back again. Same with the lip, kind of just like run my finger through kind of the upper lip, and that would prevent it from coming back again. So I did that for 3 weeks. Not a problem. It took literally like 10, he hated it, but it took like 10 seconds, and did that 6 to 7 times a day. And then the rest is history. He's been fine. I haven't had any problems with the procedure post-op. He healed really nicely. He was definitely, his mouth was sore, I would say, the first 2 days after the procedure was done, but after that, not a problem at all. I just gave him some baby Tylenol here and there, and it was fine after 2 days. But I just can't emphasize how important that was for me in my breastfeeding journey with this guy. So that was the main turning point. After that, it started to get easier, but just really slowly over time. Newborns are just really slow to eat. They're trying to build up their stamina and their muscles and their suck and everything like that. So for the first solid month, it took probably a solid still 30 to 40 minutes to fully feed him every 2 hours. At night, I was waking up every 2 to 3 hours, and I would say average, I would wake up 3 times a night with him, maybe 4 times to feed. So the first month is really, really hard. It's really hard because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how they should latch, the whole tongue tie thing. What I did also do was the lactation nurse that came to my house, I actually went to her office every week after that to make sure that he was latching okay, and she gave me a lot of tips on positioning baby because, there's different ways you can position your baby that helps with their feed and helps with their suck and helps your position. So I was bending over so much. So she was helping my posture and helping my pain. The first month was rough for me, but I had a lot of support from my lactation nurse. Between the tongue tie procedure getting done and the lactation support, I was able to get through the first month. Now, the other thing I ended up doing with him is, so his neck is crooked. See how he's leaning like this? We're thinking now he's still like this because we think he was positioned like that in utero. But the first couple of months, they thought that he was like this because of the tongue tie, because how tight his jaw was. They were thinking it was affecting his neck. So we went to the baby chiropractor twice a week the first couple of months to get him, to try to get his neck stretched out and adjusted. So we were doing that twice a week, and it was helping at first. And then I stopped going about a month and a half ago because I didn't feel like it was doing anything anymore. So now we just started last week going to physical therapy because he has not corrected yet. He's still quite crooked on his neck. And so we are doing a bunch of exercises at home and going to physical therapy once a week to correct the neck. And they call it torticollis. First month's rough. Second month got a little bit easier where he was getting more efficient at feeding. I was getting a little bit more confident feeding him. The thing I regret is the first month, my lactation nurse told me not to pump, to just exclusively breastfeed. And I think the reason why she wanted me to do that was to make sure my body auto-regulated in its milk production. So she wanted my body to produce enough milk for him and not worry about pumping. But in hindsight, if I were gonna do it again, I would definitely pump also the first month and get used to that, because I did not give him the bottle until the second month and he hated the bottle. And I feel like if I had introduced the bottle to him faster, he would have gotten used to it and it wouldn't have been such a struggle. But they were like, oh, you know, we worry about nipple confusion the first month. But honestly, you guys, you put anything in a baby's mouth, they're gonna suck. Next time around, I'm definitely gonna pump the first month, but I'll know what I'm doing more because it'll be my second time around. But I'll definitely be introducing bottle to baby sooner than waiting a whole month. So then, let's see, we're into month 2, trying to get used to pumping. And so in the next video, I'll let you guys know what pump I ended up buying and the tips that I'll give you on pumping and, you know, pumping hands-free at home versus at work, all that stuff. So I'll cover that in the next video. But got used to pumping the second month. He was getting a little faster at feedings, waking up a little bit less, like twice a night. And then the third month, it got a lot easier. So you guys, the first 8 weeks are rough. That's what I would say. The first 4 weeks are the roughest. Second 4 weeks are rough but easier. And then after that, it gets a lot easier. So he would be done feeding in like 15 minutes, breastfeeding. Then the third month, I was struggling with the bottle. He wouldn't take it. So we were practicing the bottle before going back to work because I had to go back to work after 3 months, actually less than that, because they started my maternity leave when I got hospitalized. It was actually after 11 weeks I had to go back. So he was still quite little. Luckily, I actually was able to pump pretty well at work. I was able to get the breaks every 3 hours to pump, and pumping wasn't hard at work. So I was really thankful for that, and I'll let you guys know all about that next week. Then, you know, the third month, he was faster at feeding, waking up less at night. Now we're in the fourth month, and you guys, he's done feeding after 5 minutes, honestly. He'll be like, after 3 minutes on one side, I'll feel drained. Like, he had already sucked all the milk out. So I'll switch him to the other side for 3 minutes and he'll be done. And I'm like, are you done already? And I would like doubt him. I'd be like, are you sure you're full? Like, and he's done. It is so much easier now. He is so efficient at feeding. And if he's not done after 5 minutes, he's just suckling, but he's really, really fast at feeding now. He takes the bottle from Josh Gray. He takes it from me too at times. Now we're dealing with the whole, we can't use my frozen breast milk. So we got to figure that whole situation out. So I guess my bottom line to you guys is, first of all, you really have to want to breastfeed. You really have to want it because it is a journey. Okay, I put him on his little playmat. The general consensus amongst most women is breastfeeding's really hard, and it's one of the hardest things about postpartum. You're okay. So you have to really want it. It's very time consuming. You know, just making a formula bottle and giving it to your baby is a whole lot faster than trying to have them latch and position. And, you know, when you're a brand new mom and they're little and their suck is trying to, it's just a lot in positioning. And I do not blame any moms out there who decide to do formula because a lot of times you're just not up for it, and mental health comes before anything else. Happy mom, happy baby. For me, I really, really wanted it, and so here I am today. I am so thankful that I've been successful for so far, but it has been a journey, lots of tears. My main source of anxiety has been around breastfeeding. So I had a lot of postpartum anxiety especially the first 2 months, and it was centered around breastfeeding. I didn't know if he was getting enough. I didn't know if I was producing enough. I didn't know how to pump. I was trying to get used to that. I would pump and get nothing. Like, what's wrong with me? Quinn would get fussy, and I'm like, well, is he fussy because he's hungry, or is he fussy because he's tired? But maybe it's my fault. I'm not producing enough. Like, how do I produce more milk? How do I increase my milk supply? Shoot, I'm going back to work. Like, I gotta pump some more so I can get some freezer stash built up. Like, how do I do that? Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot, you guys. And so I'm here. If you have any questions, please leave comments down below. Of course, I'm gonna go into all that next week, but that is my journey in a nutshell. Yeah, I think that's really about it. The only other thing I can really tell you guys that's made a mark on me that no one could warn me about, because I think everybody's different on this, is I have to leave the house by 6:15 to go to work, and trying to time breastfeeding him before I leave for work is such a hassle. I mean, I've been doing it, and luckily I only work 2 days a week, but I try to feed him at 6 a.m. right before I leave, so I don't have to worry about pumping until around 9, which would be like my morning break at work. So to feed him at 6, I have to kind of backtrack to, so I want him hungry at 6 so I can get empty. So then I try to like wake him up around 11 for like a dream feed so that he makes it until 6. But a lot of times that doesn't work. When should he feed before he sleeps so that maybe he can last most of the night until 6 before I leave for work? So timing the breastfeeding around work is so hard. And that's been another big challenge. The other thing I can tell you guys is breast milk digests a lot faster than formula. So I think another reason why he's still still not sleeping through the night is because he's a fully breastfed baby. I'm not using any formula. And so he's gonna have to wake up at least once at night because he's already hungry. He's also going through his 4th leap. So I know he's growing a lot. Okay, I think that'll be it for the video. I'm gonna stop here because I could probably keep rambling and rambling. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you've made it this far and watching the video, thank you so much. This is a little bit longer than anticipated. Those of you breastfeeding right now, hats off to you. We need to celebrate the fact that we are doing it. Those of you who are pregnant watching this and you want to breastfeed, it's totally doable. You got this. You just have to really want it because it is a journey. I'm so glad I can share Quinn's experience with the whole tongue tie thing because I think it's still pretty new information that we're learning about. But if your baby has a big tongue tie, highly recommend that you get that corrected. I hope that you found this video encouraging. Hopefully those of you who are breastfeeding or about to start that journey, this video is relatable to you. Those of you who are about to start your breastfeeding journey, who are about to go through postpartum, leave comments down below, questions. I'm an open book. Anything you want to ask me, and I really try my best to get back to every single comment. And of course, those of you going through IVF, you got this, hang in there. It's all worth it. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it because it really helps support my channel. I will see you in the next video, which will be my tips on making breastfeeding easier. Yay! Say bye, YouTube!